Tonight, 2 days after a bullet grazed him, Donald Trump appears before the delegates who've now officially chosen him.
President Donald J. Trump has been selected as the Republican Party nominee for President of the United States.
Trump is set to speak in acceptance on Thursday. But we now know the name of his running mate. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance gets the nod for VP.
It seems to be a choice that reinforces the president's MAGA identity.
We've got new eyewitness accounts of the Trump assassination attempt.
We got relatively close to the stage.
Everybody's excited to be there.
And another interview from the current president.
How do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says?
Joe Biden doesn't back away from his criticism of Trump.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. Emotions are running high in Milwaukee today, just 2 days after a gunman took a shot at Donald Trump, hitting him in his ear. The former president was the star attraction at the Republican National Convention. Bandaged and greeted by an adoring crowd, Trump arrived on the first day of the convention after already making news by announcing his vice presidential running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Paul Hunter is inside the RNC tonight. He was there when Trump arrived. What a moment, Paul.
Adrienne, what do you say? It was theater, but at the same time, it was a supremely powerful political statement. It was incredible. This place erupted when he walked in. Look, for those who might have expected, because of what happened in Pennsylvania, that the vibe at this convention would somehow be morose or fearful or gloomy, it isn't. It is instead triumphant. Gauze on his ear, fist in the air, 2 nights removed from that attempt on his life, and there he was. For Donald Trump, what a moment.
Just my children and my wife.
His big speech will come later this week. On this night, the symbolism was clear and powerful. He is undeterred, and in the view of so many in the arena, unstoppable. Earlier, as the convention got underway, on a certain level it looked like any other, celebratory, happily partisan, and noisy. But ask delegates on the floor about what happened to Trump on the weekend, and
I think it means President Trump's going to win and has to win. Look, they've tried to silence him, bankrupt him, jail him, and now kill him.
Biden is calling for unity. Is that possible? Is it an achievable? Should it be achieved? Can it be achieved at this point?
He can take his unity and shove it up his ass.
Indeed, at this convention, emotions are sky high. But there was also a job to do, to officially nominate Donald Trump as the Republican Party's candidate for the White House.
The great state of Nebraska.
The great state of California.
The great Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
State by state, the votes were tallied, with a delegate from Florida, Trump's son, Eric, putting him over the top.
For the greatest president that's ever lived, and that's Donald J. Trump, hereby declaring him the Republican nominee for President of the United States of America.
Nomination official, Trump's big reveal was his running mate, J.D. Vance, a first-term senator from Ohio, just 39 years old. He's a best-selling author and a fierce Trump loyalist. He's Trump's pick for the vice presidency. But Vance was also once a fierce Trump critic. In 2016, a self-described never-Trumper who called Trump an idiot, later saying that view was mistaken. And now here he is. Meanwhile, outside the security perimeter in Milwaukee, anti-Trumpers underlining ever more the seemingly unbridgeable political divide in this country.
We don't need a convicted criminal back in the White House. And sick and tired of it.
So, Paul, you mentioned there tonight that while people saw him this evening, it's in the next few days that they're expected to hear from him.
Yeah, notwithstanding his appearance here tonight, Adrian, the event of the week is indeed his speech on Thursday. The understanding is that he had a speech ready to go, and then came what happened in Pennsylvania on Saturday, and it has since gone through a rewrite. The expectation, I think it's fair to say, would have been that in that original draft, it was to take on Joe Biden and to go hard against Biden and his policies. The question now is, on the rewrite, will he soften? Will he try to lower the temperature? Will he heed those calls from outside this room for unity? We'll find out.
All right, Paul Hunter in Milwaukee. Now, Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, now has one major priority, getting voters to choose his boss. Later on the breakdown, I'll put questions to a political strategist who helped get Vance elected senator and still advises him. What exactly does Trump's pick for VP bring to the fight? That's in about 20 minutes. Now, as Donald Trump basks in the glow of the convention, he has also scored a major legal victory. The case against him for allegedly stealing and concealing a trove of classified documents has been abruptly dismissed. Richard Madden has that controversial decision.
Thousands gathered at the Republican National Convention, celebrating that stunning court decision.
Yes, I'm happy to see that because no one else would have been tried under the same circumstances.
Florida Judge Eileen Cannon, appointed by Trump when he was president, dismissed the classified documents case against him, ruling the appointment and funding of the special counsel, Jack Smith, was unconstitutional.
Specifically, she said that because he wasn't appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate, that violated the appointments clause of the Constitution.
In a statement, Trump says the dismissal should just be the first step, followed quickly by the dismissal of the other ones. It's another major setback to the special counsel in a case widely viewed as the strongest of the four against Trump. Investigators found boxes of top-secret files scattered at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort after he left office, with a former president accused of obstructing justice when authorities tried to get them back.
Yeah, initial reaction upon reading that this morning. Boom. The case is dead in Florida. This was the most obvious and simple case. He got lucky with the judge assigned to it, and he'll never face scrutiny on this before the election.
So far, Trump has managed to slow or sidetrack many cases against him. The sentencing, after being convicted of 34 felonies in his hush money trial, postponed after the Supreme Court ruled he has immunity as a former president. That ruling delayed his federal trial for allegedly plotting to overturn the 2020 election, and a similar case in Georgia, delayed by conflict of interest allegations. And the special counsel has confirmed he will appeal the Florida ruling, but that process will take time, virtually guaranteeing Trump will not face any of these trials before November's election. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
Well, that case moves through the courts. The FBI says it's making progress on the investigation into the man who shot Trump on Saturday. Karen Pauls is in Butler, Pennsylvania, where that shooting looms large.
2 days after the attempted assassination, this couple still can't think about anything else.
This is in my hometown. This happened here.
They had arrived at the Donald Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania early, full of anticipation.
We got relatively close to the stage.
Everybody was excited to be there.
But about 6 minutes into Trump's speech, people in the crowd saw something suspicious and tried to alert the police.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him?
A bullet hit the former president in the ear. One man in the crowd was killed, 2 others injured before snipers shot the shooter.
As soon as I heard that first sound, I knew what it was. And my first focus was my fiance.
I wanted to see if President Trump was okay. I wanted to see if my family was okay, my fiance okay. You know, it was just, even though it happened so fast, it was like it was in slow motion.
The shooter was up on that building, less than 150 meters away from the stage, right over there by that flag. The questions, the finger pointing, and the reviews started immediately.
President Trump wasn't killed, but the fact that someone under Secret Service protection was even hurt is a failure.
The FBI says it has now gained access to the phone of the shooter, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, and have completed a search of his house and vehicle. But authorities still don't know why Crooks carried out what he must have known would be a suicide mission.
We're going to let the investigation and the review deliver the factual findings, and will act upon those.
For neighbors, nothing stands out.
It seems like your average American dorky young man.
Pictures of the crowd.
Nicole Cornaby is still processing what happened.
I'm really just relying on my faith and hope that that we can be a country united.
You were right underneath the
Karen Pauls, CBC News, Butler, Pennsylvania.
U.S. President Joe Biden has responded to the assassination attempt with calls for unity, a message he has taken to primetime TV tonight. But as Sasha Petrusik shows us, during his interview on NBC, he got some tough questions about his own rhetoric and the future of his campaign.
In his first interview since the shots were fired, U.S. President Joe Biden was challenged on a comment last week.
You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye.
I'm going to focus on him.
He was asked if he's had second thoughts.
On things that you may have said that could incite.
How do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I have not engaged in that rhetoric. Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about there'll be a bloodbath if he loses.
Since Saturday's shooting, Biden has chosen his words carefully.
We are not going to politicize this moment. It is wrong to politicize this moment.
Rightly presenting himself as a responsible leader, say some Democratic advisors.
He's doing what he's supposed to do as President of the United States. Not only is he the commander-in-chief, he's the consoler-in-chief.
But other Democratic strategists argue being nice won't get Biden reelected. Political attacks on Republicans, they say, should continue.
We call it for what it is. It's a clown show. When you go to the circus, you see a bunch of clowns. That's exactly what you're getting with Republicans these days.
As for recent calls for Democrats that Biden step aside because he's past his prime, he's not having it.
Is there a sense of wanting to get back on the horse?
I'm on the horse. Where have you been? I've done 22 major events, met thousands of people, overwhelming crowds, a lot happening.
Analysts say the shooting may have shifted focus away from that debate.
The irony is this might very well save President Biden's position within the Democratic Party.
We've been in politics a very long time, so
but on the key political question,
has this shooting changed the trajectory of this race?
I don't know, and you don't know either.
Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
Here at home, the RCMP has boosted security in response to Saturday's assassination attempt. As Kate McKenna tells us, this comes as politicians from all parties warn about a surge of threats in this country.
To be very mindful. Politicians of all stripes agree threats are a serious problem.
Have you not looked at the headlines about how Pierre Poilievre is described as dangerous? How the leader of the opposition in Alberta has described me as dangerous? When you start using that kind of rhetoric, that ends up creating an elevated risk for all of us.
There's certainly been an increase, though, in threats and harassment for elected officials. We've heard from particularly women and marginalized community members that are feeling really targeted and attacked.
Intelligence agencies warn threats against politicians have become increasingly normalized. The Sergeant-at-Arms responsible for House of Commons security says threats against MPs have jumped almost 800% in the last 5 years, and it's not a new phenomenon. In 2019, a warning from Canada's top civil servant.
When people use terms like treason and traitor in open discourse, those are the words that lead to assassination. I'm worried that somebody's going to be shot in this country.
There have already been incidents. In 2019, Justin Trudeau wore a bulletproof vest because of a threat. In 2020, an armed man rammed the gates of Rideau Hall trying to confront the Prime Minister. This month, he was granted a conditional release. And 12 years ago, there was an attempted assassination on Parti Québécois leader Pauline Marois.
I am confident that the RCMP
We'll do what's necessary to protect elected leaders in Canada.
Canada's public safety minister says he met with the head of the RCMP and the director of Canada's spy agency and says those agencies have stepped up.
If you want to change the government, you participate in an election and you go to vote. You don't engage in acts of political violence.
The RCMP says it's in touch with its U.S. counterparts. It says threats are constantly evolving and the force is working with its international partners to exchange information and, when necessary, adapt. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some progress tonight in the fight against that enormous wildfire threatening Labrador City.
It was a positive thing today that we got that rain and gave our department and our people a bit of reprieve.
The wet weather today helped crews hold the perimeter of the fire, but officials warn it's still active and containment will take time. The province has requested the help of 60 additional firefighters. About 9,000 evacuees remain out of their homes. And in Montreal, police are investigating a fire that destroyed about a dozen vehicles in a parking lot overnight, as well as a storefront. It happened just before 4 in the morning. Investigators say the incident is suspicious in nature. No arrests have been made. Well, there was a major apology today from the federal government. It was given to Dakota and Lakota First Nations who've spent decades pushing for proper recognition. Alexander Silberman shows us the scene.
More than 500 elders, leaders, and community members from 9 Dakota and Lakota First Nations gathered in Saskatchewan to hear long-awaited words from the federal government.
We seek to begin to mend this injustice with 3 simple words. We are sorry.
A formal apology for what the minister called a dark chapter of Canadian history. The Dakota and Lakota, both First Nations people from the North American Plains, have never been officially recognized as Indigenous peoples in Canada. The federal government labeled them refugees because many migrated to escape oppression in what is now the United States. But Canada denied them treaty benefits awarded to other First Nations, gave them smaller reserves, and excluded them from major economic deals.
Our ancestors have fought for this recognition.
For Whitecap Dakota Chief Darcy Bear, it's another step towards reconciliation. Last year, his nation struck an agreement for self-governance after a decade of negotiations.
And many First Nations in this country had lands on both sides of the border as well. And yet they still signed treaty here in Canada, and we were left out.
That exclusion happened even though many Dakota communities fought for the British against the United States during the War of 1812, just one part of the historical record.
I can say that the evidence given to the Treaty Commissioner was compelling, absolutely compelling.
The federal government says the apology is a step towards a new nation-to-nation relationship with Dakota and Lakota peoples. Those First Nations say that's just a start, and they want to begin to work towards healing. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
New research aims to stop opioid addictions before they even start.
I don't know what would have happened. Like, it's scary almost.
Next, how ERs might be prescribing too many pills. And later, Paris 2024 could be the hottest Olympic Games yet.
Medical. Hot, humid weather plays havoc with a marathon.
Coming up, the dangers of competing in extreme heat and why athletes are worried this could be the new normal. Plus, how a once fierce Trump critic became his running mate. We take a closer look at the political rise of J.D. Vance with his strategist and political advisor. We're back in 2 minutes.
Today was my first day of solidarity, and I can walk.
An amazing kid, a 10-year-old TikTok star from Saskatchewan who gained millions of followers online has died. Bella Thompson was also known as Bella Brave. She was born with several rare health conditions. Despite all that, she became known for her bright, cheerful positivity as she shared her health journey online. Bella's mom says she died Sunday after being put in a medically induced coma. Well, there's new research tonight about the opioids that are given to patients leaving ERs, specifically the safety concerns that come when the number of pills prescribed is more than needed. Megan Fitzpatrick now on the potential consequences.
A life-changing motorcycle accident years ago cost Graham Lord the use of his arm.
I ripped my C5, 6, 7, partial 8 out of my spinal cord. I have severe chronic nerve pain.
When he was given an opioid prescription for his pain, the size of it surprised him.
Off I went to the pharmacist. Handed it to him, they handed me a month's worth. And then,
Lord feels lucky he didn't get addicted.
had I got the pleasurable side, I don't know what would have happened. Like, it's scary almost.
Finding the right balance in opioid prescriptions is the focus of a new study in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. How many to prescribe and for how long.
You have to give the right amount at the beginning to make sure you can have good pain management and no unused or very little unused.
Unused pills can be misused or abused. The study involved more than 2,000 patients who went to emergency rooms for fractures, back and stomach pain, and other non-chronic conditions. After being discharged, patients kept track of the pills they consumed. On day 1, 67% took an opioid. By day 14, just 12% did. In all, thousands of pills went unused. Patients with abdominal pain took fewer opioids than those with back pain or fractures. To reduce the number of unused pills, the study suggests pharmacists start by dispensing only half of a prescription. A patient could go back for the rest if needed, and if it's not filled in a certain time frame, it could expire.
This study really stirs an important discussion in Canada to consider that opioids, yes, they're effective, yes, we need them, but how do we make sure we distribute them in the safest manner possible?
The study authors say the research should help guide ER doctors as they make critical judgment calls, especially as Canada grapples with opioid addiction and overdose crises. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Toronto.
The president of Colombia's Soccer Federation is among dozens arrested during the chaos at the Copa America final. Next, how organizers lost control and what lessons can be learned ahead of the 2026 World Cup. And later, the push to protect Olympic athletes from extreme heat.
I'm just feeling too sick to move.
Why climate change is becoming a fierce new competitor. Plus, how one-time Trump critic J.D. Vance became a powerful political ally. We talked to the new running mates strategist. The National takes you deeper into the stories shaping your world. Next. That is the Olympic torch being carried through the streets of Paris today, passing by the Moulin Rouge, then to the Montmartre Cathedral. The torch will be taken across France, passing through the hands of thousands of torchbearers until it lights the cauldron at the Olympic Games opening ceremony on July 26. Organizers of the Copa America are facing criticism tonight after mobs of fans broke through stadium gates before Sunday's tournament's final. The debacle raises urgent questions as North America prepares to host the 2026 World Cup. Jamie Strachan shows us what happened.
Hours before the Copa America final between Colombia and Argentina, utter chaos at Hard Rock Stadium just outside of Miami as thousands of fans, many without tickets, surged through the gates.
We waited until the organizers got themselves together to let people inside the stadium while scanning tickets, but they didn't do that.
The wave overwhelmed staff and police. 27 people were arrested. No serious injuries were reported.
We have tickets! We have tickets!
Many legitimate ticket holders never got inside.
I cannot get in because they are not even scanning, and it's very, very disappointing.
It wasn't just the gate. Fans climbed walls, even entered through air ducts. CONMEBOL, the South American Soccer Federation staging this tournament in various U.S. cities, pushed the game's start time back by 90 minutes, but said little else.
They're the most responsible because they are the variable here. When you look at Super Bowls and F1 races that happen at this same venue in Miami, we just don't see those same scenes.
This wasn't the first security incident. After the semi-final, players from Uruguay rushed into the stands to fight fans from Colombia.
What was absolutely clear was that we had the kind of breakdown of safety and security.
Experts say there's lessons to be learned ahead of the 2026 World Cup, which will see Toronto and Vancouver host 13 games, including plans for the inevitable arrival of fans without tickets.
They need to know, for example, that they're not going to be able to get right up to the stadium because there's going to be an outer security perimeter. Or they need to know that there are going to be certain bars that are going to be open, there are places that they can go without tickets.
Officials in Toronto say they're looking at what happened in Miami to ensure venues are safe when the world visits in less than 2 years. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Danger looms when Olympic efforts collide with rising heat. Medical! But first, what to make of Trump's choice for running mate?
Reinforces the president's MAGA identity.
A best-selling book gave J.D. Vance profile as a self-made man of the people. Once highly critical of Trump, he's become a fierce and vocal booster. We'll speak with one of his closest advisors. Trump's choice seems all the more important in the shadow of this weekend's assassination attempt. So let's see what Lauren Bird found out about the man who might end up just a heartbeat away from the presidency.
This is Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, a 39-year-old junior senator from Ohio.
A man who loves America. He will faithfully stand by President Donald Trump's side as they win this election.
You've probably at least heard his name. He's a best-selling author, he's been a lawyer, a Marine, a venture capitalist, and a pretty staunch Trump defender in the last couple of years.
If you want to get back to peace and prosperity, Donald Trump's your guy.
But it wasn't always that way.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
He said some very disparaging things about President Trump in the past.
And you don't have to look far to find them.
Don't make us your excuse, JD.
Around the time Trump was first running for president, 2016, Vance released his hit memoir, which was turned into a movie about growing up in a rural community riddled by drug addiction. Back then, he compared Donald Trump to heroin. And reportedly, in a private message on social media, he even wondered if he could be America's Hitler.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
So how did he go from never Trump to running mate? Well, his position softened since Trump's presidency.
Even when I didn't like Trump personally, I liked a lot of what Trump talked about.
And that support was returned when Vance ran for Senate in the 2022 midterms.
This man is going to win. Come on up, JD.
He is a loyalist to a degree that few other Republican politicians can match.
When it comes to controversial issues like January 6th, he's publicly had Trump's back.
Donald Trump did not order a coup, despite the fact that a lot of media people say that he did. On January the 6th, he encouraged people to protest peacefully.
He's even friends with Donald Trump Jr.
It seems to be a choice that reinforces the president's MAGA identity and doesn't sort of reach out to other parts of the Republican Party or to independent voters.
But of course, there's more to the vice presidency than just bringing in new votes. They get vetted for weeks for this role. And beyond the official powers, like taking over if the president dies, they can have a lot of informal power, especially when it comes to advising the president in key moments.
When Donald Trump as president, if it should come to that, is making final decisions on important matters, this could be the last person that he hears from.
Now for a more intimate view of J.D. Vance from Jay Shabria. Jay, you and I have spoken a lot over the years through all sorts of political spasms. An added reason to speak with you tonight, you're a political strategist who continues to advise J.D. Vance as he now takes this huge national spotlight. And I'm so curious, how and when did you find out he'd been chosen?
Well, he actually found out today. It was shortly before, the world found out. So not long before. And look, here's the thing. Donald Trump, I think before all of this was, some of the narrative is that he's impetuous. He really held us close to the vest, and he's been very, very patient on a lot of the political decisions he's made. And I think that's really benefiting him. But this was included. This was all the way down to the end of it before we actually knew for a fact.
I know that you've been close to the process for choosing a VP in the past. You're not entirely unfamiliar with this. How different was this process?
Yeah, this is a little bit different. Like this is a little bit much. This is much more informal up front. I had done this once with another candidate that was very formal. But I think one of the things that I've learned over the last several years that Donald Trump's got a very good political gut. I think a lot of us have seen that. You may not like him. You may not. Your viewers may not agree with him. But his political gut's really good. And I think my sense of this is that he really relied on that a whole lot for this process. So look, certainly he had conversations and forms have been sent in, but it was a little bit less of a formal process than I've been used in the past.
So do you think that's because it was a gut choice for Donald Trump, that he looked at him and saw loyalty, or strategy with swing voters maybe?
Yeah, look, I think loyalty is obviously one thing, strategy is another thing. Here's the thing. I think J.D. Vance has always been underestimated, especially when he ran for Senate. I was his senior strategist on the Senate campaign, and one of the best parts was that the mainstream media here in the States and a lot of the political elites really underestimated his ability to deliver votes. And I think that continues to be the case here. So what I think Donald Trump's seen is a few different things. One, I think J.D. Vance prosecutes the case for Donald Trump presidency better than anyone else. Number two, I think he defends Donald Trump on TV better than anyone else. Number three, he's a Marine. He was actually over in Iraq. That's going to be the first time, it was my understanding, that a Marine has actually served on a presidential ticket. That's a big deal. And number four, I think one of the big issues here is we've got a whole bunch of swing states out there where the industrial Midwest, where families have been decimated, and the policies of the current administration have a lot to do with that. People can't really afford to put food on the plate. J.D. Vance comes from he wrote this best-selling novel, a best-selling book, which a lot of your viewers may be familiar with, called Hillbilly Elegy, and it talks about his upbringing. He comes from that working class background, and he can deliver a message better than almost anyone else in the Republican Party of what's important to those folks and how the policies of this next administration are going to help them juxtaposed to the current administration.
So you said something interesting at the beginning there, that he makes a case for Donald Trump better than anyone else you can think of. What's challenging on that for some people who have only dipped in and out to what he says and who he is that, in the past on this network, for example, he said back in 2016 he really wasn't a Trump fan. He wrote, I think it was roughly that same year on Facebook, that asking, was Trump America's Hitler? So did J.D. Vance change, or did Donald Trump change?
Well, so there's a couple things here, and we had a Senate campaign, which was probably the most watched Senate campaign, and I was on CBC all the time talking about this race back then too. This was just 2 years ago. So this has actually been litigated for people all over the country. Certainly it's going to be in a much bigger way now too. I'm under no illusions, but the people of Ohio saw the attacks about where he was. And one of the things that JD says is that he was absolutely wrong where he was. I think one of the things that people in America are able to do is give grace. When someone actually says they've changed their mind or they've seen evidence to say that they were wrong, they're going to be able to give that to them. So I have no doubt that Democrats are going to use the same playbook that they used 2 years ago when J.D. Vance was elected to the Senate on a national scale, and use those comments against him. But there's a very good retort, and the one that he's had, and it's believable, and people have already believed it in a major election. It's
not always the case that a VP announcement moves the needle on a presidential campaign.
That's right.
In this case, is there a chance it makes a difference in the race for the presidency? And if so, where is that difference made?
Yeah, look, I think people in America, they will vote on who is at the top of the ticket. And you've got a candidate on the other side who is floundering. And you've got Democrats who are basically in a circular, firing squad over whether he's going to get in, get out, whatever it is. So they're actually in a free fall. The policies of Donald Trump, where people feel that they were better off 4 years ago better than they are now, that's going to rule the day. But where J.D. Vance can really help is he's not afraid to go on with the venues that are a little bit antagonistic to the Trump brand. And I think that's one of those things. A lot of times when you have a Republican, they'll go to the conservative echo chamber. Well, he'll do that, but he'll also go to the more liberal places and the more mainstream places, and he'll still articulate that brand. That's where he's going to really deliver votes and where people are going to see him shine. And there's another piece of this too. When I worked with him in the Senate campaign, he was an outstanding debater. He knows how to hit those points that really matter to American people and to move the needle there. So when he's going to be on a debate stage, if it's against Kamala Harris or any of the other ones that the Democrats may throw out there, if the tickets happen to change, he's going to excel, and he's going to really show Donald Trump and his ticket in a positive light.
All right, what an interesting day for you, Jay. Thank you very much for spending some time with us.
Thanks, Adrian.
Olympic athletes are warning that extreme heat could put them at risk in Paris.
How is climate change impacting sport? And can sport adapt?
Susan Ormison takes a closer look at the dangers facing competitors and the calls for change. The Olympic flame arrives in Paris for games that could get too hot.
Yeah, it's definitely scary.
You're going to have athletes who are barely alive.
Giving their all can put them at risk.
Everyone was worried, me included.
And it's not just world-class sport being stifled by the heat.
If you live near a wildfire, you're probably not competing.
Here's Susan Ormison, our international climate correspondent, to break down what athletes are up against.
Tokyo. Olympic tennis. It was blistering hot and humid.
Medvedev is laboring right now.
Russian Daniil Medvedev, second in the world, was struggling. After 2 medical timeouts because of heat, he and the umpire had this exchange.
What can I do? I'm a fighter. I will finish the match, but I can die. If I die, I'm gonna take responsibility because it's a very bad company.
Wow, Medvedev just saying that the conditions right, terrible, feels terrible.
Medical! He wasn't the only athlete wilting.
Hot, humid weather plays havoc with a marathon.
The marathon and race walking had to be relocated out of Tokyo, and still hot.
It's much warmer than expected.
Spain's tennis star Paula Badoza had to withdraw because of severe heat stroke. Holding another Olympics in midsummer is tempting more scorching competitions. And Europe is warming faster than other continents. But it's not just Olympics. Fires, floods, melting is forcing us to confront how is climate change impacting sport? And can sport adapt?
We're seeing more heat waves now than we ever have before. 15 years.
We asked Madeleine Orr, a sports ecologist at the University of Toronto. She recently wrote Warming Up, How Climate Change is Changing Sport.
The problem becomes if you're not able to sweat, you're not able to cool down, your inner organs are going to start to get pretty warm as well. And that's where we start to see major catastrophic incidents of heat stroke, for example. So the big bad is heat.
The signs are everywhere.
More than hot enough to cause serious harm to human health. Temperatures are now set to climb even higher.
Now, July is on track to be the hottest month in recorded history.
Extreme weather is disrupting world competition. A super typhoon forced World Cup rugby to cancel games for the first time ever.
Typhoon Hagibis that is heading towards Japan is predicted to have very significant and widespread impact.
Pakistan's historic floods swamped most soccer fields, except one, mercifully on higher ground.
It became the medical distribution site. It became where they served food to the community because people know where the soccer field is, but it also was the place that was dry.
Wildfires last summer dispersed red smoke thousands of kilometers, forcing pro sport to cancel games. Under the smoke, there was no community sport either.
That's the challenge, is if you live near a wildfire, you're probably not competing. It just shuts it down, and those kids definitely are feeling it.
In summer or winter, heat is a weapon. World Cup ski events in the Alps were canceled 9 times this year because of snowless slopes.
We are seeing a 35-day drop on both sides of the Atlantic in the skiable days, roughly. 300 athletes wrote a letter to Federation of Skiing last year asking for more action on this.
The climate is becoming a ferocious opponent. Just ask the athletes. Olympians warned in June of health risks, even with specialized heat training, releasing a major report, Rings of Fire.
If we are competing in these hotter conditions, yeah, it's definitely scary.
You're going to have athletes who are barely alive and unable to perform at their best.
It's Vincent Lapointe of Canada picking up the silver.
Laurence Vincent-Lapointe, who won silver and bronze, knows all about too much heat.
This was exactly what never give up means.
Her victories in Tokyo even more precious after a heat-related collapse. She told us she's never forgotten it.
I had an hour and a half to recover from my first race of the day onto my next race. Suddenly, like I said, I cannot move. I'm laying down in the shade because there's nothing to do. I'm just like feeling too sick to move. I had to jump into an ice bath. After that, they had to like lay me down in a AC room with electrolyte water and lots of protein bars and just like pressure sleeves on my legs in the air and everything. And everyone was worried, me included.
The heat and humidity almost ended the dream she'd had since childhood.
So the problem is most people think of what it was like when they were young, right? When I was a kid, you know, you had to drink a bit and you had to put your sunscreen and you were fine. But nowadays, if you don't drink like 3 times as much and you don't do this and that, like very, very specific things for cooling yourself in between races, then you can drop.
Madeleine Orr is urging athletes to advocate for change, using their power and influence as flag bearers for their country and for climate action, including breaking ties with some sponsors.
Athletes are competing for teams that might be sponsored by an entity that doesn't necessarily want to talk about climate change. So for example, if you're competing on Team Canada, which is sponsored at the moment by Petrocan and RBC, 2 brands obviously connected to funding fossil fuels and producing fossil fuels, it can feel a bit tricky of figuring out, right, like how exactly would I approach some of these issues.
Of course, you're talking in the year that the Edmonton Oilers went to the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
That's not a popular opinion.
It's not, and here's the thing, right? It's really tricky because you're now having to, if you walk away from fossil fuels, to say, okay, well, what are we going to replace it with?
The Olympics have always been about faster, higher, stronger, and now hotter. Athletes need protection from the ravages of our changing climate.
So, Susan, I understand Paris promised the greenest Olympic Games ever, but I gather already they're running into trouble.
Yeah, I mean, part of their sustainability plan was no air conditioning in the athletes' village, instead in-floor cooling, but there was so much pushback. They've had to order 2,500 AC units. Teams can pay for them, and Canada will be taking advantage of that.
What's curious is, like, how does sport actually adapt to climate change?
Well, Madeleine Orr, in our story, she says the #1 thing is every sport needs a heat and air quality policy, like we have rules around storms or lightning. And she says, change the coaching culture. Don't push through when it's blistering hot because heat can kill.
All right, good advice. Susan Ormison, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, why some local firefighters created a giant slip and slide. Some excellent summer fun is our moment. Now look at them. They are lined up and ready to take off. That is thanks to a team of local firefighters from Warman, Saskatchewan, just outside Saskatoon. They set up a slip and slide for nearby kids to simply stay cool. So it seems it was their way of serving the community and soaking up the sun. And tonight, why not? It's our moment.
You know, it's just our slip and slide day. We generally get families camping in the park here or having their little lunch and sending their kids down the water slides and making a day of it. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. 1, 2, 3. We do medical calls, we attend fires and do all the regular stuff that you'd expect, but being involved with our community and helping out and doing things for our community, and especially for the youth, because, you know, you got to start recruiting young. So. If you get them into the firefighters are good, then my job's a lot easier in about 10 more years.
I'm probably just gonna just slide down the belly first.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It definitely cools you off.
All the kids are out, enjoying themselves and just making the best of it for a hot day.
Anybody can do it. You don't have to buy equipment or anything else. You just have to be able to let her rip.
I so want to do that. Also, you know, hats off to firefighters who are always so great with kids. It doesn't have to be a slip and slide. It doesn't take much to see a firefighter and, you know, kids' huge eyes whenever they see those trucks. Thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the Nationals YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.